Hey, Jess, you know that CMO that we're friends with at that one company?
Yeah, the one with the giant budget.
Yeah. Well, we were at dinner the other night. We had a couple too many drinks. She showed me her entire influencer strategy. And my question for you is like, why aren't we doing that?
Hey, Josh, remember when you did that classic CEO thing where you came to me with an idea that you got from another CEO at a totally different company, at a totally different stage with a totally different budget, and you wanted me to do that same idea?
Well, first of all, I think you need to drop your attitude. Yes, I do remember that. And I don't know why you said it that way because there's nothing wrong with exactly what I did. But yeah, I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have an issue with that?
No, none.
Yeah, this was so funny because this happened, I think, like around or after the time we had recorded the first season of the podcast, where we had a whole episode dedicated to CEOs going out on trips, meeting other CEOs, and then bringing back horrible ideas.
Yes.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I was I think in San Francisco or at some trip somewhere, and at the end of like a long event day, like we were trying to figure out what we were going to do for dinner. And I got grouped up with this other CEO that, to your point, is at a different stage of their business and has a totally different budget. And we like literally had several drinks. And by the end of it, she like whips out her phone and she's like, I have to show you the hack. And I was like, yeah, show me the hack.
Yeah.
She's like, influencers. And she goes through this like whole thing of just like, all of our pipeline is coming from influencers right now. And you just need to follow this 27-step process. And I was like, it was not 27 steps for me. It's one step for me. I'm going to tell Jess. She's going to do the other 27 steps. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Here's the thing. I wanted to do influencers too.
Yeah.
You weren't wrong.
Of course not.
Of course not. Never. But yeah, I think it was more of like, let's figure out how to do this the right way for us.
Yeah.
So I remember saying, let me come back to you with a plan that will work for us.
Yeah.
If you go back to episode 1 where we talked about where I pitched the marketing budget for the first time, this was part of that. So the idea was in like a content creation bucket where we were going to have some influencers actually come up with some thought leadership type content for us. And we had like $12,000 earmarked for that.
Yeah.
Very different than your CEO Friends program.
Yeah.
But that's okay because you have to start somewhere. And this was a test for us. We'd never done it before. I'd never done I've been paid to do posts before. I've never been on the other side where I have to like actually create the program.
Yeah, that's interesting. In a second, I'm curious to hear how yourself being used as an influencer helped you build our own.
Yeah.
But I will say, to your point, I think the one thing that I fail, and I think most CEOs fail when they bring these ideas back to their marketing leaders, is context, right? Like, are we at the same stage? Do we have the same investment? Do we have the same amount of teams?
Yeah.
Because we didn't. I think it was just you and Alex at the time.
Yeah.
Which, let me count really. 1, 2. That's not a big marketing team.
It's very small. Carry the one.
Carry the
2
one.
whole people. Okay.
If I round up, I guess it's 2. So obviously I brought this great idea that you more or less weren't already thinking about, but because it came out of my mouth, it was so much better of an idea at that point.
Yes.
And you're like, okay.
You mansplained it to me.
I mansplained it. And you're like, oh, it makes so much more sense now.
You're right, boss. We should do this.
All right. So you're like, okay, we should do this.
Yeah.
Like, walk me through like how you actually went about doing that.
Yeah. So, realistically, we wanted to build a pilot program.
Yeah.
That is my recommendation for anyone who's ever thought about like, maybe we should try some influencers, is like, start small, start with a pilot. I was thinking we could probably have about 8 influencers with the budget we had. And we ended up with 7. So kind of the mix was 3 customers.
Yeah.
It felt really important to have customers in the mix who have used Vector for the actual like use cases we want them to actually be able to talk about the results.
Yeah.
And then we had 4 thought leaders, well-known influencers, demand gen marketers on LinkedIn who were not necessarily customers, but they have the ear of our ICP. And knowing if we gave them access to our tool, it would pretty quickly click for them how interesting and different and important this our product was.
It's interesting that like, so when I was at this like super prestigious CEO dinner, when I thought about influencer marketing, I thought you just like find somebody with like 1 million followers and just like tell them, talk about your thing. It sounds like you're like talking about like authenticity and like things like that we actually care about. So you went after a customer. Ew, that sounds way less fun than that CEO made it out to be. So you went after a couple things. You went after existing customers.
Yep.
But then you prioritize like influencers that had like the ear of our audience. It wasn't necessarily people that had millions and millions of followers, but people that had authentically built reputations where we wanted to go create awareness.
100%. I think I took a look back at our set of influencers. We had like an average following of 13,000 people.
Yeah.
Really nice little sweet spot for building trust.
Yeah.
And, these were all folks who, you know, Kaylee Edmondson and Brittany Blanken, who have built careers doing demand gen, talking about best practices. And for them to talk about us was like a really big deal. There's a lot of trust built up there. So that was what I was really looking for, was like people who had built that trust, who really knew what they were talking about, deep practitioners, so that what they say carries a lot of weight.
What was did you know, because you already have a little bit of a following and you've been building a community here, did you know exactly who you were going to pick, or what was the process for finding these right people?
I had a list of folks that I wanted to like try to work with.
Yeah.
They were all people I had followed for a while. So I knew the quality of their content and the types of topics that they were posting about, and that it aligned with what we wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. The other thing I really wanted to look for was people who I knew were storytellers, who could like really bring people in through the way that they craft their posts. They're not just kind of like going to take my brief that I give them and just spew it back.
Yeah.
The reason they have this trust built up is because they've lived it, they've done it, they've seen all these different scenarios, and they can play that back to people in a way that is able to teach them something.
Yeah. And I think you set them up for this, because what I loved is like you picked customers, which meant like we actually had to have the product deliver value, right? I think there was at one point, one of our amazing influencers that's a customer is Sydney Waterfall. And I remember at one point, I think we actually had an issue with the product, right?
Yeah.
And we had a brief in front of her and we needed to get that part of our product fixed, right? So there was authenticity to it.
Yeah.
And even the people that weren't customers, you gave them access to our product.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a really big thing. And this feels like a big takeaway, again, if you're thinking about like starting one of these programs, is you need to do it in a way that allows these folks to have access to your tool.
Yeah.
So you can't just expect an influencer to like want to talk about what you're doing if they've never experienced it for themselves, if they've never been able to try it, get in there and like poke around a little bit.
Yeah.
They have to feel good about what they're talking about. They have to believe in it.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, I gave all of the influencers full access to the product. I actually had Amy, who's on our customer solutions team, do a proper onboarding with every single one of them. So that
cool.
they could really understand what they could do in there.
Yeah.
And it would help inform the content they put out.
What was, for someone that's like me, that's never thought about putting together an influencer program, maybe a younger marketer that hasn't had the opportunity to do this, like how do you, you pick the people, you have this brief of what you want them to write about or like directionally. When you're picking out influencers, do you have a budget in mind? Do you ask them what they cost? Like, how do you actually execute getting influencers to work with you?
Yeah. So for this pilot, I knew that I calculated the budget that we had based on $500 a post, one post per month for 3 months. I wanted to do a quarter-long pilot and see how it went. Now, admittedly, that is a low rate.
Yeah.
For these size of audience. Okay. Typically it's in the $750 to $1,000 a post range. Okay. That's pretty acceptable. Yeah. So I was going into it knowing like they may say no. Yeah. I did have some people say no, and that's totally fine. I was ready for that. What it meant to me was I wanted to build a longer term relationship. Yeah. And I was very upfront about like, I know that this is not probably your typical asking price. Yeah. We would love to bring you aboard. And as this grows, so will kind of the rate. Yeah. And so I think what that did was it brought people on who really believed in us and were fans. Yeah. That felt really important too, to like not just bring somebody on because they had a bunch of followers and were cool.
Yeah.
But like, we want friendlies. We want people who really believe in us and are rooting for us.
Yeah, I think that was huge. And I think it also proved to me that like you don't have to go for the biggest voice in the industry, right? There was a couple of people we work with that I think maybe hadn't done paid influencership stuff before.
Correct.
Right. And this was a cool opportunity for them to get paid for like the community they had been building.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really, really cool for me to see.
Yeah. Josh?
Yes.
Do you know what time it is?
What time is it, Jess?
It's a time. I don't think it could get any more awkward than this, but it's gonna.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Because we're gonna look into the camera deep.
Deep.
Like right in the center. We're gonna deliver what all the people need to hear.
In words.
In words.
Of affirmation.
From our mouths.
To your ears.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Dear marketer, your webinars generate leads, standing ovations, and dollar bills.
Just printing money with those webinars.
Printing money, y'all. That one made more sense if you watched the video version of this.
We did the little like pushing the money off of my hand.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. Wow.
ASMR.
Yeah.
Dear marketer, you build urgency into your copy so perfectly that FOMO develops FOMO.
Oh, poor
I
FOMO.
know. I can like see it. Like,
Yeah.
so sad.
Fear of missing out.
I know.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, poor guy.
Okay, so you picked out all these people. You've kind of set what your budget is going to be. Some people are okay with that. Some people pass. Now you've got these handful of folks that you're really excited about running this pilot with. What do you ask them to do? What does a brief look like?
Yeah. So I give them like three things.
Okay.
I give them a timeline. So one post a month, maybe 2 weeks out from when I actually wanted them to post, I would send them the brief and I would tell them a range of dates that would be like, here's kind of when it would be great if you could post kind of thing.
Yeah.
It offers flexibility. I've been on programs before where I've been the influencer and you have to hit a specific date. And sometimes it's hard because you may yourself have something launching that day and you really want to post about it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to like finagle that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give them a range because everyone has things going on.
Yep.
And just that like preference would be like Monday through Thursday, right?
Yep.
Fridays are kind of questionable in terms of reach and impressions. So, so Monday through Thursday during that week was like the preferred posting time. Didn't always happen. Like so things come up, right? Like you still have to be flexible enough with your influencers to let them be like, hey, I got this thing, right? So that happened a couple times, totally fine. Didn't derail a single thing.
Yeah.
So flexible timing is number one. Number two is a really tight brief. So doesn't have to be like any dissertation. Like I think most of them were a couple paragraphs of like, what is it we want you to talk about? A couple of bullets around messaging that they could either borrow or like use as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Some screenshots or some graphics if it made sense.
Did you theme them around sort of what was going on in our campaigning? Did you have them all kind of post like similar things?
Yes,
like walk me through that.
I did. So the first post, we actually aligned with a product launch. So we had a product launching called Signal Driven Ad Audiences.
Yep.
And we asked them to post about that. And it didn't even have to come out on the day of the launch. We kind of peppered it the week after so that it would be like, the internal team talked about the actual launch on the day of. And then the following week, we would kind of see all these influencer posts pop up, which was a nice little waterfall effect.
Wait, talk to me really quickly. I'm going to interject. Talk to me about like the pacing of these, because I imagine if you're tying it to a specific launch, you want to create a little bit more momentum around that launch versus maybe if it was around a launch, you kind of want like always on influencer posting. Is that true? Or how do you think about the timing of?
I tried to think of it as like I wanted them to all post around the same week.
Okay.
It helped me personally, selfishly, just keep track of everything as one person trying to run this program.
Yeah.
It helped when I then had to reach out a week later and be like, can you give me your results from that post? I could do all that at once. So it really just helped me organizationally to keep them all around the same
That's a good hack. I wouldn't have thought through that, which is like, maybe you would like to do around like all month long posts, but the uplift that puts on you managing that program, it might not be worth it.
It's tough. Yeah. And I think now the LinkedIn algorithm at this moment in time, at time of publication, is still pushing like 2 and 3 week old posts.
Yes.
So it really wasn't like anything I was concerned with. Like I knew that we'd get a good group of people to see it in the first week.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, we'd have kind of the follow-on effect.
That's a good point. If you're listening to this podcast on LinkedIn, it probably came out 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so bad. I don't know why they made that change.
I don't know. It's weird. But then sometimes I see really good stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, that was good. Yeah. I'm glad I did see that.
I just don't like when I hear sometimes we'll talk at work. I'm like, oh, did you guys see that post? And then I'm like, no,
where is it?
And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. You guys, I saw it. I saw it.
It was funny. You guys are right.
They were like, we moved on.
Yeah. Like it's not even cool. We're talking about Taylor Swift's album now. Get with the program.
Okay. So that first post was about that product launch.
Yeah.
The second post was actually around the time when we got our initial survey results.
Yeah.
So a couple episodes ago, you and I talked about how we repositioned the company.
Yep.
And part of kind of figuring out the right messaging was we surveyed 80 demand gen marketers.
Yep.
Those survey results came out and they were really, really compelling.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do my best to create content and push those, the findings like as far as we could. And so I gave the report to all of our influencers. I gave them a handful of like graphics that they could use to kind of show off the different statistics that spoke to them the most, and essentially asked them to like find the 1 or 2 pieces of data in here that like speak to you.
That's cool.
And do a post about it. So the brief was really pretty loose beside like, here's the data and here's what it told us. Like, what are the implications to you?
Well, but I bet they enjoy that though, right? Because I feel like every one of our influencers and even yourself as a content creator, you have a vibe, right? Something you're known for, right? You made a good, name for yourself in content specifically, right? So I imagine if someone engages you as an influencer, you want to try to tie it back to the things you're known for, where your audience is. So I'm assuming that was received well, of that flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think they all picked vastly different statistics, right? Because they all have different perspectives and backgrounds and like their companies are very different, right? So it was like the thing that spoke to them and their situation was a little bit different, and how they interpreted it was different as well, which was really interesting.
What was the third one?
The third one was about a product we have called Ad Reveal.
Yeah.
So again, we've been going through this repositioning. We're really focused on ads. I wanted that to shine through in this third post. This was kind of like the last of the 3, and I really wanted to make it count. So we have a product called Ad Reveal. It lets you see who's clicked your ads by name, even if they don't convert. So it's pretty cool. And I essentially gave them like messaging points about the product itself and some questions that might spark a post. So it was like, how would you think differently about reporting on ad performance if you knew who was clicking on it?
That's cool.
How would you surface this information to your marketing leader and your exec team? Like, what does that even look like to be able to tell them who clicked an ad? So like, and what would you do with it afterwards? What would you do with a segment of ICP buyers who you know clicked your ads but didn't convert? Like, what's the next action? Okay, so the first was flexible timing. Second thing was a really tight but short, a brief.
Yeah, brief.
brief. And the third is creative freedom. And I think this is really important because these folks have like been doing this a while. They know what they're doing. They've clearly built an audience of people that trust them. And they did that on their own without any of your help.
Yeah. Yep.
And so to think that you could give them so much like direction and almost dictate what they need to say is like really foolish. Like it's going to come off as completely inauthentic.
Yep.
It's going to turn a lot of people off. It's going to be very clear that this is kind of an anomaly. This doesn't really sound like them.
Yes.
And most likely they're not going to agree to that.
Yeah.
So I think giving them kind of the freedom to do what they do best and understand their audience best and their tone and their vibe, their format, you know, are they really into video? Or they just do text? Like my text posts outperform my video.
Wild.
I don't know, 5-6 to 1.
Wow.
And sometimes I'll have companies come to me and like, oh, we only want video. And I'm like, that's fine. I know for a fact it won't perform for you. Like I want it to.
Yeah.
And so, I think just kind of let them loose, like give them what they need and let them go.
You know how I feel, or you know how I know that this worked is when I would scroll through my LinkedIn feed and I would come across one of these like sponsor or these like influencer posts. I didn't know if when I got to the bottom of the post, I would see the hashtag vector partner or not, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know whether it's
really
an
nice.
influencer post, that tells you it's a really good influencer post.
Yeah.
On the contrary, I think we've all been on LinkedIn within like the first sentence, you're like, this is a sponsored
Yeah.
partnered post.
Yep.
Which brings me to one more thing that I thought you did really well with the creative freedom is, can we stop doing influencers that you just give them the same banner of the same product launch? Like what a waste of your budget. Like it's so easy to tell that like it's basically an ad.
Yes.
At that point, which is kind of defeats the purpose of finding like authentic influencers that have communities that you want to authentically get into.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can give them a graphic as like, hey, here's the information. Here's what our corporate page is going to be posting.
Yeah.
Do your own thing.
I think it's interesting that you brought like a diverse set of influencers, some of them executives, some of them tactical practitioners, right? And so to have some of these prompts that are open-ended where it's like, hey, how would you physically use this feature if you're a practitioner? How would you report on this, right, to your executive? Or if you are an executive, how would this influence like how you think about things? And I felt like as a result, especially in that third one, I remember seeing the post come through on LinkedIn, you got really diverse sort of perspectives on this thing that we had launched.
Yeah. And it was really exciting to see that. And that was actually, I think, our most successful of the three just across the board.
Wow.
And it's hard to tell why, right? Like it could be a mix of like the actual product is really compelling. The stories that our influencers told were really compelling. The day of the week that it was posted on, like all those things, right? You'll never know why that was the biggest hit. But and it was really exciting. I think it was a really good validation to see that our messaging is striking a chord.
Speaking of that being one of the more successful of the three that we did, how did you goal this? How did you measure success? It feels so like intangible sometimes.
Yeah. I did not directly track. So it wasn't like I consciously chose not to give each of them like a UTM code.
Got it. Yep.
And I thought I might, like in the very beginning, I was like, all right, I got to spin up some UTM, codes for these guys so they can, when they actually like send someone to a blog post, like I know it was Kaylee that sent them there or whatever. But it started to get really complex. It started to be more than I could track. And I was like, you know what? This is the pilot.
Yeah.
I just want to see directionally that this is working. I think we're going to feel it. I don't think we need like such direct tracking this first time around.
Yeah.
So I did not do that. What I started to see, I think it was around that same time that we started implementing a how did you hear about us in our demo request form.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my solve for this was like, if I start to see LinkedIn or I start to see some of these influencers' names pop up, like, okay, there we go. That's a nice little sign.
Also, can we pause?
Yes.
Vector's the only company, I think because we market to marketers, where I've seen the like, how did you hear about us? Where a majority of people fill it in and give like wild detail about where they heard of us.
They're like, this is my God-given duty as a marketer to give you the very specific way I heard about you.
They're like, you want that first touch attribution? I'll tell you where I saw you.
I got you,
I got you, girl. Which brings you back to like the UTM thing, which is like, yes, you can try to measure everything, but like attribution, how many people like see the influencer post and like scroll to the comments and click that specific link, right? And like how much that attribution can throw off your scent to what is and actually isn't working for you.
Exactly. It felt like too much, especially for a pilot.
Yeah.
So we did not do that. What we did see though was almost immediately a pretty big influx of how did you hear about us coming from LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Which we were getting a decent amount of because you and I are pretty prolific posters.
Yeah.
Allie has now started really getting into posting. She's doing an amazing job. Nick posts really consistently. So like we have a good group of us who post quite a bit. It was one of the top lead sources, but very quickly became the top lead source.
Yeah.
There were even a couple times where people would say like, I saw this person's LinkedIn post.
Yes.
If they didn't put it in the how did you hear about us, it popped up in the alert for the sales call.
Yes. Yep.
So they would be like, I saw this person's post and I was really intrigued.
Which you talked about this in season 1, but I think it's important just to bring it back up for anybody that either didn't listen or they're trying to build out one of these influencer programs now. You set up call recording software to, like a Gong. I think for us, we're using Fathom because it's cheap. And you are using that, not as the end all be all attribution software, but it allows you to capture a little bit of this attribution that otherwise you don't get in a form.
Yeah. We set up some alerts in there. It was really simple.
Yeah.
We have some different categories. So like when we first decided to pivot to ads use cases and ads focus, we did a whole category of ads, keywords.
Cool.
Those started popping up like way more than we were seeing before. I have one for the podcast. So I have like the word podcast and, this meeting could have been a podcast. YouTube is another one I have in there. So I wanted to set one up for like influencers. So I think I added keywords like influencers, influencer post. I added all their individual names.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would pop up every once in a while. And so it was just like, okay, something's happening because of this.
Yep.
So that was really exciting. After the pilot was over, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what I would get out of $12,000. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put like a number around it of like this many opportunities because I just had no idea.
Yeah.
So at the end of the program, I jumped into like our demo request channel and I grabbed all that information for the life of the program, July to September. And I put it into Claude and I was like, tell me everything where a lead source is LinkedIn or an influencer.
Yep.
And tell me how many of those, what percentage came from marketing, kind of gave them like the guardrails for like what an ICP demo looked like.
Smart.
So from July through September, we had 45 demo requests where LinkedIn was the lead source or an influencer was the lead source.
Wow.
And of those 45, 82% were ICP.
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That was what I got really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what that tells me is if we scale this program, we can expect with the right influencers to continue to hit about that percentage.
That's insane. And when you think about like the investment for the return there, right? It's like, and again, this goes back to people often ask me like, you guys are doing so great in marketing. Like, how do you measure it? And I'm just like, we don't, right? Like we measure things, but like we don't measure it as a whole.
Because, and I think that's why we're doing so well.
I think so too, because it's like, you don't have to get it down to the specific like pixel to know that like $12,000 went in, 40 some demo requests came out. And at our conversion of like demo to opportunity and opportunity to close one, like not even close to there being a question on whether that was ROI positive.
It was, can I give a number?
Yeah.
It was 1.1 million in pipeline.
Wow.
Off of $12,000.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, and 82% of that is ICP, right?
That's crazy.
So that to me was like, okay, we have to continue.
Yeah.
We have to continue this.
Can I call out a caveat really quickly? Because I feel like something that a lot of CEOs struggle with is you hear a number like that and you start to think like, well, why isn't that all we're doing, right? If that's working so well, here's the problem,
Great point.
right? And like you just want to double down on like the things that are working. And I think where this gets worrisome for marketers is they're like, well, advertising is harder for us to prove out, so let's pull that back. Or, organic content's harder for us to prove, so let's pull that back. The problem is with any of these programs, like you have to have a mix, right? Because if you and I just said like, oh, screw it, our next $1 million worth of budget is just going to influencer marketing, like there is a cap to like how much opportunity there is there.
Yeah.
You have to mix it up with all these other things. So don't take Jess's ROI and stop your other marketing programs.
No, I think the influencer marketing worked really well because we also have a really cool brand.
Right.
We've been very like out and about at all these events lately.
Yep.
We've made really interesting hiring decisions that made a splash in social.
Yeah.
We have some great ads out there. We're doing some really interesting things in video. We have this podcast, like all of the other things that have happened, right? So for someone to see an influencer post and be like, oh yeah, I feel like I've heard about these guys, or like I saw something else about them, right? Like it's very likely that wasn't the first time they heard about us.
Agreed.
So I think it's like, it's the mix, right? Like all of the things kind of rise the tides of the 100%. Boats and the ducks.
All the ducks be rising. The ducks be rising.
Ducks be rising.
And also let's use this as an opportunity to say marketing doesn't fix product market fit.
No.
Right? Like if you're doing all this stuff and your product fucking sucks, you're still gonna have an issue.
Yeah. You can bring on all that pipeline and it'll go away just 100%. As quickly.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you went through this exercise of bringing in these folks. You've used the word like experiment a lot so far.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we finished the 3 months. The contract with these folks are over. Like, what do you do next?
Yeah. So I would say this is a wildly successful experiment.
Yeah.
We are absolutely going to keep this going.
Yeah.
We're going to do a couple things differently. So since this started, we have repositioned ourselves as an ad tech platform, as a tool you use to build your ad audiences.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of our influencers who wrote fabulous content for us.
Yep.
That at this point probably aren't the best fit because we need to keep this narrative tight because it's brand new.
Yeah.
We cannot waver from it. So we are going to just change up the mix of folks a little bit so that we're making sure we're keeping that ICP in mind and our use case of ads. We're moving away from this idea of like positioning ourselves as like a competitor of ABM a bit. So we want to make sure that like the influencers support that.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do a little bit of mixing up there. We're going to keep a handful of those folks that really fit that for us. And we're going to bring on a couple of new ones.
Cool.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
I would like to experiment with some video this time around where it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think video can give you some really interesting results in terms of actually getting product-led content.
Yeah.
So maybe having some of our customers build a segment or launch an ad campaign using a vector audience or look at campaign reporting inside a vector could be really cool.
How do you think of, so for this next phase, I feel like there's a couple levers you could experiment with. I'm curious if you think of experimenting one thing at a time or multiple. So one thing I think of is like 7 worked really well for us. Could we do 12? Could we do 20? But I also think about the content itself, right? Video, how-tos, right? Like, do you think in this next phase, you will both change, type of content and quantity, or will you pick one lever at a time to experiment with?
I think we'll probably pick one lever at a time. I'd love to give it another quarter of same size group with some different flavor to the format. Because I think beyond this group, I can't do it myself. It starts to get really big and complicated. And I'm going to need like a vendor or partner. Money, please.
Money, please. No.
Absolutely.
Should have thought about it at the beginning of the year when we did planning, Jess.
Dang it.
Are there tools for it? Is this like a person's job? Is this a demand gen?
There's a couple different ways you go about it. So there are companies that have head of influencer marketing.
Wow.
That they have such robust programs.
Yeah. Calm your
They
horses.
have a full-time
Yeah.
person. I don't think we're there.
Yeah, good.
I think this is more either agency or contractor to like really figure this out for us and just control all of the details. Even just like right down to the contracts, like 7 different contracts being sent out, all being differently redlined.
I didn't think about that.
Right?
Yeah, you had a lot of like, what would you call that? Just like back of office kind of stuff you had to do to
that
make
has
this
to get
happen.
done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All the invoicing, all of those things.
Shit, maybe you do work hard.
I do some stuff around here.
I didn't even realize you were doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Cool.
Yeah, what do you think? It just got magically done? Like your laundry? Or what?
What do you mean? That just shows up.
That was for you, Jenna.
Yeah, that was for Jenna. Yeah, she'll like that one. I'll give her that clip.
So yeah, I think it will require some help as this grows. So I want to do one more quarter where we don't make it much bigger, but we try a couple different things.
Yeah.
And then I think we'll have learned quite a bit from that.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to hand off a ton of learnings to whoever we bring on.
Yeah, I love that.
One thing I do think we're going to try that is expanding the scope of this just ever so slightly.
Yep.
Is by the time this comes out, this will already be known. So I'm going to spill it here.
Yeah.
But we actually signed to sponsor Tass Bober and Tim Davidson's podcast, Notorious B2B.
Yeah.
With that sponsorship comes a post a month from Tass and Tim.
Yep.
So it's like influencer adjacent
Yep.
because we get their kind of content on LinkedIn. We also get the mid-roll reads and the sponsorship mentions in the
cool.
podcast itself.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it under the umbrella of influencer marketing because of that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll be really interesting thing to see too, is like, how does that extra little bit of like promo pay off for us?
Yeah, I think that's smart, which is like when you're thinking about setting up the influencer program, right? Like it's natural to think influencer, individual person, big community, but there could be like literal communities, Exit 5, what they've built over with Notorious B2B, like that's a really interesting way to kind of get like more bang for your buck of like they're literally going to write for us, but we're also going to garner this community they've built outside of their individual followings, which is cool.
I'm excited for that one.
That'll be really good. Cool. So to wrap, what's your sort of like handful of takeaways? If you're standing up your first influencer program, how do you do it?
Start small. Yep. You do not need a huge budget. Even if you can get 3 influencers to do some posts for you for a few months, like start there. Yeah. Start whatever works for you. What's the smallest version of this that you could create that makes sense for your brand and your company? So start small. You do not need creators with huge followings. You can find people who have built a really like loyal audience. Yeah. Look for trust first and foremost.
Yeah. Authenticity over like quantity.
Everything else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then third, I would say just like let them do their thing. Yeah. Like give them enough information to arm them so their post is of the quality that you're looking for, but let them do the storytelling. They know their audience best. Like, let them do their thing.
Oh, I love that. Or as Jess Cook would say, let them cook. 6'7".
6'7". Let them cook.
What is this one again?
Oh, clock it.
Clock it. Love it.
This is a new one. This means if they said something and you agree with it and you do this little finger tap thing and you say, clock it.
Clock it. We need to change the name of the podcast. Instead of this meeting could have been a podcast, it's like how to relate to your Gen
middle
Z
schooler.
children. Yeah.
We teach you all the slang. We make it not cool anymore. That's my goal. Anyway.
Hey, Jess, this was a great meeting, but I do have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
If I were an influencer, how much do you think I could charge?
6'7".
6'7". This is a great meeting, Jess.
It was a great meeting. This meeting could have been a podcast.
It could have.
It was.
It was.
This Meeting Could Have Been a Podcast is a Vector production. Vector lets you build ad audiences from real people that visit your site, click your ads, and research your competitors. Imagine seeing exactly who will see your ads by name before you spend a dime. It's a great time to be alive, marketers. Go give it a whirl at vector.co. See you next time.